Okay, so hopefully, yes, we are recording. All right, we are recording. We have transcription running. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 549 AI for Visual Computing. My name is Mubashir Kapadia. I will be the instructor in this class. So yeah, so that's me. Hopefully, you all know where to find me, right? So that's my email. In terms of office and office hours, right? So the university policy regarding in-person instruction this semester is still very much in flux, right? As I'm sure you all very well know. So the policy as of today is that there will be remote instruction until the end of January, and we are expected to return to in-person instruction in February, right? So let's see how that pans out. But in terms of office hours, right? So we will continue to have remote office hours, and we will be essentially having on-demand or anytime office hours on Discord, right? So hopefully you all have seen my announcement regarding joining the Discord server, and I noticed many of you all have already begun, begun interacting and participating. So that's great. So yeah, so essentially, I will be always available on Discord. So feel free to reach out to me either through the public channels, or in the event you all need to have a personal conversation, you all can DM me. Okay. There will not be any teaching assistant for this course, right? So what does that mean? That means that there won't be any recitation, right? And in general, it's a lack of a resource. So let's bear that in mind as we move forward in this class. So just to introduce myself a little bit further, right? So I did my PhD in computer science at UCLA way back when. I've had the opportunity of working with industrial research labs like Disney Research, Unity, Adobe, Autodesk Research, and it's always important to think about how your sort of research manifests, right, into real world application domains. And hopefully that is something that you all will see sort of permeate in the various topics and lectures over the course of this class, right? So while there will be sort of fundamental discussions on core research ideas in AI as it pertains to visual computing, there will usually be an application domain, right, as an emphasis or as a focus. I've spent some time at UPenn, and then since 2015, I've been a faculty at Rutgers, and I direct the Intelligent Visual Interfaces Lab. So for those of you all that may be interested in sort of getting a sense of the kinds of research activities that are ongoing in our lab, feel free to visit our lab webpage. It's more or less up to date. So, so before we dive in, right, just for those of you all that may be interested, right, so computer graphics, right, which is a subfield of visual computing, and I'll describe what I mean by visual computing in a little bit, right? But for those of you all that may be especially interested or wondering, oh, what's going on at Rutgers in terms of CG, so these are sort of the two prominent research groups, right? So the Intelligent Visual Interfaces Lab is my group. That's the link where you all can, right, find out more details about what we are doing. Professor Mridul Anjaneya, right, is the other sort of de facto computer graphics faculty, right? And you can certainly look up his work. He's doing some fascinating work in physically based simulations, and more recently, he's applying his work to robotics. So in terms of coursework, right, I feel like many of you all may have already seen or taken these courses before coming to this class. So that's wonderful. If you all haven't, 428 and 523 are sort of the undergraduate and graduate course offerings of computer graphics. It's important to note that depending on who the instructor for that course is, the topics in the course are extremely different, right? So for example, if Professor Anjaneya offers 428, his focus, I believe, is usually on rendering. If I offer 428, my focus is primarily on computer animation and specifically character animation. Okay. And yeah, and I cross-list 428 and 523. I believe Professor Anjaneya has a separate offering for 523, which is based on physically based simulation. So hopefully that's not confusing. And of course, beyond computer graphics, right, there's a wide array of courses being offered in computer vision, pattern recognition, machine learning, robotics, artificial intelligence. I less frequently or in an ad hoc fashion offer courses on game design as well, but unfortunately has not been a recurring offering as of late. So yeah, if there's anybody who's particularly passionate about games, please feel free to reach out. Okay, so let me pause for a second, right? Just I mean, feel free to ask questions, preferably over chat, right? So if there's any questions at this stage, feel free to shout out. Okay, I see no questions. All right, let's keep going. Oh, one sec. Will the recordings be made available? Yes, the recordings will be made available. Okay, so just FYI, right? As you all can see, I am recording the lecture, right? And I am essentially looking at the chat window. So I don't know if you guys can see the chat window. So just a note, right? That everything you say or type will likely be public information and on record. Okay. Okay, let's keep going. So to sort of dive a little bit into the details of our research, right? So our research is sort of broadly at the intersection of artificial intelligence or computational intelligence, visual computing, and human-computer interaction, with sort of this broad overarching mission to develop intelligent visual interfaces for human-guided content creation, right? And that's a mouthful, right? So let's hopefully over the course of this lecture and more generally over the course of this class, you all will get a sense, right, of what that research thesis is. So with that sort of mission, right, our group primarily conducts research along four main research thrusts, right? First and foremost, we investigate the computational modeling of human behavior, right? How we can design better public spaces, how we can use these solutions to create animated and more generally multimodal stories, and finally, how we can use these advancements in AI to inform the design of games, as well as use serious games as a medium for experimentation, right? So those are sort of the four main pillars of our research. I don't know why the slides are just on autoplay, but okay, let's hopefully it doesn't cause any issues. So, so for example, right, if we were to look at the intersection of research that we do in computational modeling of virtual characters and spaces, a key research question that we are asking is, wait, I need to figure this out. Sorry, give me a second. The slides are on autoplay. Okay, use timings. Okay. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen again, right? So, so one specific application domain, right, that lies at the intersection of the computational modeling of human behavior and the design of spaces is, we ask this question, right, that how can we use artificial intelligence and human behavior research to inform the design of buildings, right? And we call this research theme or research thrust intelligent human aware building design, right? So in layman's terms, right, we ask this question, how can we incorporate the estimation and prediction of human occupancy and behavior into the design of buildings, right? So if you sort of look at this, right, public spaces and buildings are fundamentally a function of how people inhabit those spaces, right? So it is therefore imperative that architects, designers, urban planners account, right, for human occupancy and human behavior and human affordances when designing these buildings, right? So our question, the research question that we ask is that how can we provide these solutions and technologies to designers at the design stage, right? So this is just one example or one facet of research that we do. And we do research in the four other sort of pillars and research thrusts that I sort of briefly alluded to earlier. So the reason I'm sort of presenting this right now is just to give you all a sense, right, of the kinds of topics that you all will see over the course of this class. So, and why is all of this important, right? So the research interests in our lab, right, which I briefly described, and these are some of the other topics that, we will be discussing, will most likely directly translate into the class projects that you all will pursue, right? So that is something that you all want to begin thinking about as early as today, right? What is the topic that you all, interests you the most, right? And hopefully something that you all would like to pursue as a semester-long research project. And in some cases, you all may want to use that as a stepping stone for sort of even more longer-term research, right? Whatever shape or form that might be, either as a master's thesis, an undergraduate capstone project, or potentially even a PhD thesis. Okay, so let's get to specifically what this course is about. So this course will introduce students to recent trends in artificial intelligence with applications to visual computing, right? And I've sort of been throwing around this term visual computing for a few minutes now, right? So what exactly is visual computing? So visual computing is a subfield of computer science which broadly encompasses the following areas, right? So computer graphics and computer animation, right? So computer graphics largely deals with the synthesis, right, of computer generated content, right? Could be images or motion, right, or animation. Computer vision, right, which is the inverse of computer graphics, deals with the understanding of images and video, right? So computer graphics and computer vision are duals of one another, and many of the technologies and ideas that you see in one topic sort of usually have corollaries in the other, right? So that's just something to bear in mind. Other sort of subfields which are of equal interest, right, and especially in recent times, include virtual and augmented reality, right? So with with the coming of age of the metaverse, right, these topics have suddenly gained a lot of traction and interest, and rightfully so. And more generally, interactive techniques, right? So how can we develop human-computer interaction technologies to be able to deal with and interact with computer-generated data, right? So gaming is sort of the most obvious realization of an interactive application. So as part of this course, students will be broadly, right, and emphasis on the word broad, right, broadly exposed to concepts in artificial intelligence which directly apply to one or more of these topic areas. Okay, so let me pause. Let me see if there's any. So, so this particular individual, right, Hanan, hopefully I got your name right. They are asking, is neural rendering, right, which is use of neural networks to represent 3D models a relevant topic? And the answer is absolutely, right? So the use of advancements in deep learning for to tackle the synthesis problem has gained a lot of traction recently, right? So I'm sure y'all may have seen, at least in the news, if not in papers that y'all may have read, the sort of the proliferation of generative adversarial networks, right, for image synthesis, right? And this topic area is sort of more generally sort of referred to as computational creativity, right? So what these advancements in neural networks represent, right, it sort of paves the way for the use of these machine learning models in more complex rendering problems or more complex synthesis problems, right? So this, so Hanan, right, is asking if we can use neural networks for 3D model synthesis. Absolutely, and the answer is absolutely, right? And in fact, some of the lectures that you all will see, I believe we will have lectures on the use of neural networks to model and synthesize facial animations, right? So this is a topic that one of the PhD students in my research group is working on. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so with that sort of high level course objective out of the way, right? So the specific learning goals of this class include to develop a broad understanding, right, of recent AI trends as it pertains to visual computing applications, as we have just discussed, and to sort of gain both a conceptual and practical exposure to these different visual computing application domains. Okay, so the idea is that at a high level, right, the lecture component of this class will sort of expose you all, right, at a broad level to, you know, sort of what's hot, right, what's hot in the area, and that admittedly from a narrow point of view, right, because it's from the point of view of the instructor, right, namely me. So of course, there's a lot of work going on in the space, but you all will be sort of exposed to a sampling of this research. And then as part of the final project, you all will be expected to sort of do a deeper dive and a deeper exploration of, you know, one or more of these topic areas. Okay. So with that said, the secondary goals, right, of the class include sort of gaining insights, right, from the various research papers that you all will read in the broader AIVC topic domain, to ideate a research project from beginning to end, right? So you all will be expected to sort of identify a critical or key challenge, right, or a key issue that exists in this research area, and to come up with a solution, right? So to come up with a proposal of what technologies, of what methodologies you all will use, right, to address that challenge, right? And once you all have that, and that is often the hardest part of the research, you all will essentially come up with an execution of that research project, right, to develop a research prototype which proves your hypothesis, right? So whatever idea or whatever hypothesis you all may have developed, you all are expected to verify that hypothesis over the course of the semester. And the final deliverable of this class, right, and which will translate to a majority of your grade, will be a technical report, right, that you all will deliver at the end of this class, and that is essentially the technical writing component. Okay, any questions so far? Hopefully the presentation is smooth, right? So hopefully everyone can see the screen. Hopefully everyone can hear me clearly. Any questions? Okay, if there are no questions. So somebody, sorry. Yeah, so there's a question, technical report on the research for project. Yes. So just to, sorry, a few questions coming in. So let me take it one by one, right? So Vrinda is asking, right, technical report on the research for project. The answer is yes, right? So the technical report will be the conclusion of your research project that will be due at the end of the semester, right? So it will essentially describe your entire experience over the course of the semester in executing that research project, and it is comparable to a research paper that you all might read. So can the final project, oh, sorry. So Jodh, right, is asking, can the final project be multimodal in its area of research, or it has to be vision? So you all will have a lot of freedom in selecting your research project, right? So if you all want to deal with multimodal data, right? So for example, a combination of images, video, or natural language, you all can certainly do that, right? We do have an extremely active research project in the wider domain of multimodal data storytelling, right? Which essentially at a high level seeks to sort of understand the relationship between natural language and images, right? As it relates to creating stories, essentially, right? So, for example, if that's a topic of interest, you all are more than welcome to pursue that. The important thing to note is you all may not see lectures on that topic, right? But that doesn't restrict you in your project of selection. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Vrinda, I think his follow-up question is the technical report, I guess, on the research project or on the research paper, right? So the answer is on the research project. Okay, all right, so there's no more questions. Okay, no more questions, let's keep going. So the structure of the course, right? So the course will consist of two deeply interconnected components, right? So the lecture component, which will be provided by myself, as well as a series of invited speakers, right? So you all won't just be hearing from me, but you all will also be hearing, right, from other invited speakers, which could be faculty from other universities, as well as some of the the senior PhD students doing research at Rutgers. Okay, so that's so you will sort of hopefully get a broad sampling of not only research topics but also opinions, right? So just not just my opinion. So the question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind, or at least it's on my mind, right, is whether the lectures will be in person or remote, right? And whether the lectures will be asynchronous or synchronous, right? So let me just see. There's a quick chat. Oh, okay. I did not know that. Jyot, thank you for that, right? So Jyot says that it has been confirmed by mail that February onwards classes will be offline. Can somebody else confirm that? Yeah, Neil, I'll get to you in a second. Can somebody else confirm? Okay. 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 All right. I guess you all got that before me did. So I guess students tentative. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't want to make any definitive statements today, right? Because I don't have that email or confirmation from the university. But yeah, so I mean, the short answer about this question is it depends on what the university decides, right? So if the university makes it a mandate, right, that classes will be offline for February or for the remainder of the semester, then that's the answer, right? We'll go with that. If the university mandate is to go back to in-person instruction, we have, of course, no choice but to do that, right? Okay. There were some other questions, right, about I think someone was asking about recording, was it? Yeah, will the in-person classes be recorded? So if classes are in person, they will not be recorded. Okay, I don't think they will be recorded. I will look into it. If there is a feasible way to do so, I will try my best, but I cannot guarantee that today. Okay, so if classes are in person, I cannot guarantee classes will be recorded. If classes are remote, they will definitely be recorded, right? So today's class is being recorded. Okay, so let me try and conduct a quick poll, right? And maybe it's moot, right? So if the university's already decided it for us, then that makes life easier. But in the event of ambiguity, right? Let me try and create a poll about this, right? So just give me a minute. I'm just trying to set up a poll on Zoom. It's my first time doing this, so please bear with me. Okay, so let me see if sorry, I'm just trying to do this, guys. So can you guys see the poll or no? You can't, right? Can you guys see it? How does one conduct a poll? Oh, no, okay. I guess I don't know how to do this. Polls, class preference, oh, launch, okay. Okay, so I believe I have launched the poll. So hopefully you all should see a pop-up window on your screens, right? Asking you to choose between 3 options, right? So you all have very quickly started filling it out, but I'll describe what I mean, right? So option A is in person, right? So which means we would all meet, right, at Core 101 on campus. It will be synchronous and there will be no recording. Option 2 would be remote, which is today, right? And synchronous, right? Which is what we're doing right now. And we will have a recording component as well. And option 3 is remote and purely asynchronous, right? So class recordings will be made available, right? And you all can view it at your convenience. So yeah, I see that we have 25 people who have voted. So I'll give, I think we have about, yeah. So give people a few seconds to finish voting. Okay, so we have 31 people who have voted. There are, okay, so I think let's go ahead and end the poll. So, and I will share the results, right? So hopefully y'all can see the results. So it's a split, right? It's I'm actually surprised by the result, right? So 42% of you have indicated a preference for in-person synchronous instruction. 35% of you have indicated a preference for remote and synchronous instruction, right? And 23%, right? So a minority of you have indicated a preference for remote asynchronous instruction. Okay, all right, great. That's good. Good for me to know, and certainly something that I will factor in. But as I said, at least as of today, I don't know what the university policy is. Hopefully, what you all have said is right, is true, right? And then we have certainty that February will also be offline. In which case, right, we will likely proceed with option 2, right? So remote and synchronous. So basically, what we are doing today. Okay, let me stop sharing. No, don't stop sharing this. So currently, what can you guys see my PowerPoint screen or my browser window? So hopefully you guys can now see my PowerPoint screen, right? Slide. Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So and Ezel, right, says that the hybrid mode will be the best if possible. Yes, I agree with you. All right, and yeah. Yes, I mean, we're all in uncertain times, right? So we're all trying our best, right? So please do bear with us. Okay, let's keep going. So that's the lecture, right? And then the other critical component of this project, of this class, is the research project, right? So here students will go through the entire life cycle of a research project, right? So that stems from research ideation, conducting a comprehensive, deep literature review on the topic of choice, development and prototyping, right? Evaluation, and finally, technical writing, right? So that sort of forms sort of a critical thrust, right, of what y'all will pursue as part of this course. And it's something that I sincerely recommend and request that y'all put a lot of thought and deliberation into, right? So think of this as not just a deliverable of this class, but hopefully something that y'all can proudly host on your respective CVs, right? Whatever your future may be, right? So think of this as a stepping stone. And as I mentioned earlier, the project topics can be certainly related to the lecture topics, right? And in fact, I will recommend it, that it is the case. But students will certainly have freedom in choosing their own project topic, right? Of course, contingent upon my approval. So at a very high level, right, as long as the project topic and theme falls within the broad umbrella of artificial intelligence for visual computing, I will have absolutely no objections, right? So for example, there are a few students who are not from computer science, right? Some of you may be from cognitive science, from civil and mechanical engineering, right? And some of you all may be PhD students who already have a thesis topic, right? Or at least a tentative topic that you all may be pursuing with your advisors. So what I encourage you all to do is try to find a synergy, right, between your ongoing research and sort of the broad strokes topics of what are being discussed in this class. And I'm almost certain you all will find that there will be an important use case for the ideas that we are talking about as it pertains to your application domain. Okay, so that's just a high level. Okay, any questions about research project? Yeah, so TLDR, lots of freedom. Okay, let's keep going. So the logistics, hybrid course offering, remote synchronous lectures on Zoom until, we kind of went over this, right? Yeah, so remote synchronous lectures on Zoom until Jan 31st, right? So the next lecture will definitely be on Zoom like today, post January to be decided. Hopefully we have certainty very soon. Whenever possible, lectures will be delivered as recorded videos, which will be made available to the students. The sort of the asterisk or the caveat here, right, is that some of the invited speakers, right, will not be sort of geographically co-located here, right? So some of them may be in different parts of the country or maybe even different parts of the world, right? So yeah, we will have to sort of consider the best approach of delivering their lectures as well. So of course, Zoom stands to be the best best way to deliver that content. Okay. In terms of instructor-student interaction, right, that will be primarily, if not exclusively, on Discord, right? Of course, email channels and pre-scheduled online meetings are always options that we can exercise. But as I said, anytime availability on Discord, right? So feel free to shoot a message on Discord, preferably on the public channels, right? And only in certain circumstances or private DMs, right? But yeah, feel free to reach out to me on Discord, and I will usually be responsive, right? In a few hours or so. Okay, and I'm generally online on Discord. All right, lectures, kind of. I don't want to belabor this, right? We went over this. Yeah, lectures will be given by the instructor as well as a series of invited speakers, and I'll try and provide the list of speakers, right, to you all soon. We're currently finalizing that. Similarly, the lecture topics, right, which are yet to be finalized based on the speakers, will be covering recent research trends, right, in the topics that I will talk about in one of the following slides. So in order to gain the most from the lectures, right, there is a minimum expectation, right, that you'll have some proficiency and background in these areas, right? And what does that mean, right? That hopefully you'll have either been exposed to some of these topics before, right? Either in a class or maybe some hands-on experience, right, on a research project. And that may not be the case. In fact, that will certainly not be the case for all of the topics, right? So what I encourage you all to do in order to gain the most from the lecture component is to essentially take some time and read some of the relevant papers prior to the lecture, right? And what we will do is we will essentially, like a week before the specific lecture, we will provide, of course, the bio of the speaker, right? Links to their research page, as well as some recommended readings, right? So 1 or 2 research papers that are most relevant to the lecture, right? And it is strongly encouraged that you all at least spend some time reading that paper before the lecture. I'm yet to decide whether I will make that mandatory, right? Like essentially an assignment, right, where you all are expected to submit a review of the paper. So I'll see how the lectures go, right? If I see a lot of good engagement in the lectures, then I won't make that a requirement. But if I sense lethargy, then I may. Okay, so I'll keep you guys posted. Let me pause to see if there are any quick questions, any opinions on this. Will invited talks be recorded? So yes, I mean, everything I said, right, applies to the invited talks as well as, right, to my talks, right? So assuming this is the medium of presentation, right, where the speaker will just be another individual on Zoom, then yes, absolutely, right, we will be recording the lectures, right? Recording lectures only becomes tricky if the class is in person, right? So that's only then we will have to be a little bit mindful about how exactly we will record the lecture, right? So that's so hopefully that answers your question. Azil, if I do not have prior exposure to the course contents, will I still be able to cope? It's a good question, right? So, and we can also discuss offline, Azil, but at a high level, right? So again, think of this, right? So the course has these 2 components, right? The lectures and the project. In order to gain something from the lectures, right, it is recommended that you'll have some working knowledge, right? What do I mean by working knowledge? So if you've taken a course in AI before, if you've taken any of my courses before, right? If you've taken a computer vision course or a machine learning course, then you'll are fine, right? Then you'll are doing well. If you haven't taken any of these courses, then, as I said, some working knowledge, right? So maybe you all have done some independent research in any one of these topics, right? So that would usually do the trick. In the absence of both of those, then strongly encourage that you all read the paper before the lecture, right? And I think as long as you all take that trouble, then I believe you all will at least enjoy the lectures, right? And you all will learn something, right? Independent of the lectures is the final project, right? So the final project will be a majority of your grade. And there is certainly a world, right, where you all choose to not pay attention to the lectures at all and y'all focus exclusively on the final project in a topic of area that is of particular passion to you. And as long as y'all succeed in that project, y'all will get a good grade, right? But you may or may not, right, have learned everything that y'all could potentially learn from the lecture component, right? So sorry, that was a bit of a long-winded answer, right? But hopefully, hopefully that answers your question. Okay. So yeah, Ezil, hopefully. So Vrinda gives a thumbs up. That's good. Harsh, in lecture discussions sounds the best way to understand the papers. Harsh, you're absolutely right, right? So yeah, so if we have, as long as we have a synchronous lecture, right, like this, we can certainly have discussions. Yeah, I completely agree. The best thing for you guys would be, right, if you'll have an opportunity to ask the speaker questions, right, during the presentation. So that's the best way for you all to consume the content. Aditi, if people drop this course and the total number, would the course be cancelled? That's a very good question. Aditi, it is my understanding that the course cannot be cancelled anymore, right? But hopefully somebody can confirm that for me, right? So I think after the first week of class, as long as a minimum number of students are registered, then I believe the course cannot be cancelled. Can somebody confirm that for me? Yeah, okay, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has a confirmation of that, but I think that's my understanding. I'll look into it. Okay, hopefully, yeah, hopefully we have at least 10 students stick around. Okay, Gunjan, do we need to form group for project or can it be done individually? Right, so we will allow a group size of 1, but in exceptional circumstances, right? So for example, what is an exceptional circumstance? A PhD student, right? Who has a very clear research topic, which is their PhD thesis and wishes to continue doing that, then that is an exception, right? And that person can certainly continue doing a research project on their own. If you are not, right? So if you're a master's or an undergraduate student, but again, you have a lot of clarity on your research topic and you'll have a justification of why you'll want to do it by yourselves, right? And a justification could be that, oh, this is going to be my master's thesis, right? Then that's fine. Then I will allow it, right? But those are the general guidelines. And as Aditi asked, it's also a function of the class size, right? So if the class does, for example, at this, I believe we have around 30, right? 32 students in the class. If the class size falls below, right, a threshold, then yeah, more likely there may be a number of you all pursuing solo projects. Okay, let's keep going. I suggest we can upload some reading note as homework. Yes, that's something that I am considering, right? And I will certainly solicit the class's feedback on that, and we will make a decision about that. Yeah, so once the lectures begin, I will make a decision on that. Okay, great. So Ezil is asking, group size will be 1+1 tentatively, right? So sweet spot is, in my previous course offerings, the sweet spot has been 2, right? And yeah, so 2 to 3, and 4 is the ceiling, right? So yeah, 4 is generally not recommended, right? So 1 is the floor, 4 is the ceiling, 2 to 3 is the sweet spot. Okay, so yeah, you guys were correct. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, so I think we went over the slide. So the final class project, students will work in small groups, right? We just discussed the group size to execute a final project from inception to completion. Students will be expected to submit regular, right? And regular is at least, well, sorry, at most weekly, right? Project updates. And this will essentially take the form of your weekly assignments, right? And I will provide a template of what these updates should look like, right? So this will count, essentially this will be a form of incremental grading of your final project, okay? So I'm thinking about what the most efficient form of these updates will look like, right? So what I'm tentatively thinking is that these updates could essentially be updates on Discord, right? So it's, the most painless way, right, for you all to give provide me an update and for me to give you all real-time feedback, right, essentially. So the idea being that every project will have their own dedicated channel, right, which will be publicly visible to everybody, right? So the whole class will get to see the updates of each individual project, and at the beginning of every week, you all will be expected, right, to write a reasonably comprehensive update of what you all did, right, and provide some update like demos or results, analyses, etc., whatever you all might be working on, which I can review and comment on. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about. Any thoughts on what is the most efficient manner of weekly updates? For example, like maybe you all could set up your own blog, right? That could be another approach, or use Canvas, right? Canvas, I guess, gets the job done as well. Any quick thoughts on preference for this? Okay, I don't see any chats. Okay, so maybe I'll keep going. So the final course deliverables, right, which I alluded to, will include the following, right? So it will be a comprehensive review, right, of the background in the project area that you all choose, a technical report, right, which will be due at the end of class, which will describe the project, right, and this, like, in terms of like expectations, right, it should be on par with a research publication at an international conference. Optionally, and this depends on the project, right? So as long as there's a visual element to your project, you all will be expected to provide a visual demonstration of the research. So this could be, for example, like a live demo of the tool or system you all may have developed, right? Or a visual explanation of your research, right? And of course, a link to your to the source code, right? So every group will be expected to maintain a GitHub repository for that project. Okay, I see a chat. Let me quickly respond to that. Yeah, so Catherine asks a very good question, right? Is there a recommended timeline for the final project? For example, the proposal should be finished by X date, literature review should be done by Y, etc. Yeah, exactly. So Catherine, that's a great question. Thank you. So we will be having, right, we will set a rigid timeline for the intermediate milestones for the project, right? And you essentially enumerated them, right? So your very first milestone will be a formal project proposal, right? Your second major milestone, right, will be essentially a related work section of your paper, right? So it will be a selection and review of 10 to 15 research papers, right? As it directly relates to your project topic, right? So those are the sort of the first two primary milestones, and there will be other sort of intermittent milestones, right? Expecting, for example, a proof of concept, right? A preliminary evaluation, right? And your final milestone will be your technical report. Okay, so I'll provide that timeline to you guys moving forward. Okay, so this week we will be taking it easy, right? So I won't have any strict deadlines for you guys, but what I recommend, and there is a reason why Discord has been set up, right, is for you all to already start interacting with each other, right? Start forming, start finding like-minded people and start thinking about your research, okay? And I know it's a chicken and egg problem, right? Because on one hand, you all would like to be exposed to different topic areas, right? Before making a selection, but on the other hand, for you all to have enough time, right, to execute a successful project, you all need to start ASAP. So how can we address that, right? The best way to address that is for you all to exercise some independent critical thinking, right? So what does that mean? That means that, the information is there, right? Take the trouble to go to my research page, right? Take the trouble to browse through some of the ongoing research activities in the computer science department at Rutgers, right? And once I give you all the list of speakers, what I will do is I will give you all links to their research portfolios, as well as point you all to some relevant papers, right? So it is an expectation that you all independently, right, dive into these various things, at least at a cursory level, so you all can begin identifying the direction that you all want to pursue. Okay, and yeah, and more details to follow suit. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. I see no other comments, right? So yeah, let me keep going. I mean, kind of, we just talked about this, right? So choosing the project topic, right? Students can choose a project topic based on the lectures, or come to the class with a pre-selected research topic, right? Related to their ongoing research activities. As I said, students will have quite a lot of freedom in choosing a topic as long as it falls within the broad umbrella, right, of AI for VC. And yeah, in general, I'm flexible, right? So as long as I see clarity and passion from the project topic, I'm happy to support it. As I mentioned, a majority of your class grade will be dependent on the successful execution of your final project. So at a high level, right, your class grade will be based on participation and project, right? So participation is sort of a loose term, right, which will be contingent upon your interaction in the lectures, your interaction on Discord, and optionally some of these review assignments that I am considering releasing, right? So what I mentioned, right? So for example, if I feel the need that you all should have a, you all should submit a mandatory review, right, of the lectures, right? That would count towards the class participation grade, right? And then of course, everything else would be the project grade, right? So I'm yet to decide on what the breakdown will be, but rest assured the project will be a major component, right? A lot of the uncertainty, once again, stems from the fact that we don't know whether it's going to be, right, in person or remote, right? Because that will essentially determine a lot of these decisions, right? So hopefully, in fact, certainly, we will have clarity on these various things by next week. Okay. Let's see, there's some questions. Okay, so Catherine, that's great. Hopefully that answered your question. Advit is asking, is there anywhere we can view previous research projects in this class to understand the level of complexity our research project should be at? That is a good question, right? So Advit, this is the first time this class is being offered. So unfortunately, we do not have precedence, right? I will, yes, but it's a great question, right? So it is my responsibility to sort of give you all a rubric, right? Or sort of, you know, set some guidelines of or what constitutes a successful project, right? So yeah, I'll try to give you all some samples or some references, right? Or what I believe would be a meaningful deliverable. In general, again, so if the question is directly like, oh, you know, what do I need to do well in class, right? So my answer is, don't think of this class that way, right? This class is an opportunity for you all to, you know, as I said, to be exposed to, you know, recent state of the art, as well as to pursue a topic of your choosing, right? So as long as you all exercise dedication and passion, right? I don't see anybody performing poorly in class as it comes to a grade, right? So, okay, hopefully you all get the message. All right, so let's keep going. Anirudh, will the rubric be provided for project or the minimum expectation of implementation? I don't quite understand, but yes, I will. What I'll do is I'll set some clear guidelines, right, on what are the minimal expectations for the scope of the project, as well as the quality of the deliverables, right, in terms of the technical writing and in terms of the project demos and so on and so forth, right? So yeah, so at least you all can know that you all should strive to, right, to define a scope that meets those expectations. And more generally, right, you all will have discussions with me at the time of project proposals, right? So that will hopefully be, you know, at that time, you all will get some very good feedback from me in terms of what is the right scope, right? So if you all give me a project proposal that doesn't meet my scope, that project proposal will be rejected, okay? Right? So you all will very early on in the class, right, essentially have clarity, right, on what is a sufficient deliverable for the final project, right? So basically, essentially, right, once your project is approved, right, that is a contractual agreement between you and me that as long as you all meet the expectations of that project proposal, you all will do well in the class, right? Yeah, Vrinda, yes, the answer is yes. So Vrinda asks, would we have to read through research papers to come up with a tangible research project to work on? Yeah, so the answer is yes. So as I said, as I answered Catherine's question, step one is a project proposal, right? So you all come up with a high level idea of the research question that you all want to pursue and the topic that you all want to pursue in. At that point, you all should have independently at least looked at some research papers, right? So to identify, these are some of the major questions that I need to work on. Step two, so once you all have a project topic that has been approved, the second step is for you all to select 10 to 15 research papers, right? And conduct a literature review on that topic, right? So that will be your second milestone. Okay. So yeah, Brinda, hopefully that answers your question. Wenjaya is asking, is it just me or can I not see some questions? So yeah, Wenjaya, I have a feeling students are sending direct messages to me, right? So they're not messaging everybody. So that might be why you did not see many of the questions. So everybody, please broadcast your messages, right? So please send your messages to everybody. Okay, Vrinda is asking again, what if we find that it has already been solved at a later point? That's a good question, Vrinda. So during the project proposal discussion phase, right, you all will essentially be discussing with me if the project scope is reasonable, right? So I will help you in that regard. I will help you determine if the topic is worthy of investigation, right? That doesn't mean that I know everything, right? So I may certainly also overlook, right, something. So if that is the case, right? So if you all select a topic and you all find 5 weeks into the semester that, oh, somebody's already worked on this, that's perfectly okay, right? That's perfectly fine. What that means in the worst case scenario is that you all will reproduce the results of a paper, right? And that's fine. That is worthy of investigation. And in the best case scenario, you all will do something that builds on top of that research paper, right? So Vrinda, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, any more questions about projects or anything else? Okay, I see no more questions. Okay, so I think I've covered everything on the slide. Let's keep going. So yeah, so since y'all were asking, right, what the project proposal is, this is what the project proposal is, right? So this will be, so once y'all have finalized your group, I think I will probably make this project proposal due in the 3rd week, right? So y'all will have 2 more weeks essentially to finalize your project proposal, right? And we will give 1 week of wiggle room, right? So for example, if your project proposal is not approved at the very beginning, y'all will have at least another week to iterate on it, right? And work with your team and work with me to find a topic that works, right? That can be approved. So the project proposal, right, essentially entails answering the following questions, right? So it is quite detailed, right? So the very first question, the problem statement, right? So what is the problem you are trying to solve? The motivation, right? Why is this problem of interest to the wider AI VC community, right? So why is this topic of interest to artificial intelligence and computer graphics or computer vision researchers and practitioners, right? So why is the topic of interest to industries in this area? Applications, right? So, what are some of the important applications that would be made possible if you were to solve the problem that you are addressing? The challenges, right? So what are the main research challenges to solving this problem, right? Like, why is this problem worthy of investigation, right? Is it trivial, or is there some, are there some major challenges that you all need to address? Prior work, right? So how have previous researchers tried to solve this problem, and where have they succeeded, and more importantly, where have they failed, right? So at this, at the project proposal stage, you all should have a cursory understanding of what exists in terms of prior work, right? And at least a broad understanding of, this is sort of what exists. These are some of the major limitations, and this is what we are going to be working on, right? So that takes us to your proposed approach. So I don't expect this to be well formed at this stage, but at least you all should have some ideas, right, of how do you propose to address these limitations and solve the problem, right? So for example, Are you all going to use machine learning? Are you all going to use classical AI, right? Is there a specific neural network architecture that you all want to investigate, right? These are the kinds of ideas I hope to see in your proposed approach. Your contributions, right? So what are the main scientific contributions that you all expect to make at the end of this project? Evaluation. So how will you evaluate the proposed approach you all will undertake? What are the expected benefits of your approach? And finally, right, once you all succeed, or if you all succeed, what are the expected outcomes of this project, right? So these are sort of the main questions that I expect to see in your project proposal. So for the proposal, I will expect to see short answers to these questions, right? So your project proposal document was probably going to be 1 or 2 pages long, but your technical paper, right, will essentially be an elaboration of each of these questions, right? So your final technical paper will likely have, sections or subsections corresponding to each of these questions, and will likely be, anywhere from 6 to 8 pages long. Okay, and by 6 to 8 pages, I mean 2-column, right? The 2-column format, right? So the traditional research paper format. Okay, any questions so far? Questions or comments? Okay, I don't see any questions. Let's keep going. So the second milestone that I already mentioned, right, will be the literature review. So once your project proposal has been approved and once your topic, right, has been chosen, you all will select, right, 15 to 20 research papers. You all will have them approved by me, and then you all will write a literature review of prior work in the area, right? So this is probably another 1 to 2 page write-up, right, that you all will essentially provide, right, as a literature review of the topic of your choosing. Okay, any questions? So, so once those 2 milestones are out of the way, right, then we will have these regular updates, which you all can think of as maintaining a weekly blog, as well as updates to your source code repository, right? So each group is expected to maintain this weekly blog, which I am tentatively thinking to host on Discord, right? But suggestions are more than welcome here. And then, of course, students will be maintaining a code repository, which I will have access to, right? And I will be monitoring, right? So while I don't expect significant code updates every week, right, I do expect regular progress in terms of development. So your final project, deliverables, right? Fully functional implementation, the link to your GitHub repository, a 5-minute video demonstration of the project, right? And again, I'll provide more details on each of these individual deliverables, and more importantly, a completed technical report which documents your entire project lifecycle. Okay, so I have a question here. So Jodh is asking, blog updates can be on Discord, but can be archived on GitHub, on the GitHub pages. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, Jodh, yeah, I think y'all, in fact, again, think of the GitHub repository as an asset that y'all will be developing, right? Because as you all know, interviewers, right, they often look at your GitHub repositories, right? So certainly setting up your own GitHub pages, right, where you'll document your project is also a great idea. And yeah, Jodh, y'all can use that primarily to describe your project, and then just copy and paste it or provide a link to that on Discord, and that should be fine by me. Okay, that's a good idea. Any other questions about projects? Okay, no questions. Right, so this is an important thing, right? So the project emphasis, right? So the emphasis of the project can be research, but can also be on advanced development, right? So this is something that I think some of you all have asked already, right? So what do I mean by that, right? So the spectrum of the project, right, can fall on between 2 ends, right? A purely research-based project, right, where there will be a greater expectation on y'all identifying a key research question that is yet to be solved, right? And then y'all can proceed to develop a prototype, right, that seeks to answer that question, right? So in that case, the the focus, right, in terms of grading will be primarily on the research component, right? So on your ability to identify the research questions and on your ability to answer, essentially conduct experiments, right? And approve your hypotheses, whatever they may be, right? And there'll be less of a focus on the dev, right? On the actual source code and on the sort of the quality of your working solution, right? On the other hand of the spectrum, right? If your emphasis is more on advanced development, there will be less of a focus on the novelty of your research, right? But there will be more of a focus on the polish of your final project, right? So in terms of maintaining your source code and most importantly, what I will be reviewing, right? On the quality of your regular updates and on the final demonstration, right? So the final working demonstration of your whatever it is that you might be working on, right? So for example, if you all so chose and you all wanted to work on a game as part of this course, right? A game-based project is less likely going to be research-based, right? And is more likely going to be advanced development-based, right? So, and as long as you all have a reasonable justification for why you all may want to pursue that, that is something that I would be willing to allow. Okay, so hopefully that sort of gives you all more clarity on the sort of the spectrum of possible choices in terms of choosing a project. Okay, questions? Okay, I don't see any questions. So this is something that's important, right? So y'all will have the opportunity of being assigned a research mentor, right? So the different speakers, right, that y'all will gain exposure to will, of course, be bringing expertise in a variety of topic areas, right? And a subset of those speakers, right, will be available or will be made available as research mentors. So the project teams, right, who are sort of working on a topic that is closely related to one of the topic areas of one or more of these mentors are highly encouraged, right, to reach out to them and essentially pair with them as it relates to that topic, right? So that is sort of another opportunity that y'all will have. And then these research mentors will likely provide invaluable advice in sort of choosing, right, in choosing the direction that you'll pursue and manner of execution, right? So that is just another asset that y'all will hopefully be able to take advantage of over the course of this project. And I will certainly serve as the default mentor, right, on all projects. Okay. Any questions? Okay, no questions. Let's keep going. So that brings me to the topics, right? The course, right, will cover advanced topics, right, in a variety of areas spanning AI, character animation, computer-aided design, cognitive science, right, and much more. So the topics listed here are tentative, right, and are contingent upon the finalization of the speaker list, right? So hopefully we will have more clarity on this, right, in the coming weeks. But at the very least, right, you all will get a week's notice on the next lecture, right? So y'all can expect, right, a week in advance. Y'all will know who is speaking, what they're speaking on, and y'all will be given access to or pointers to, right, representative research papers, right, that will likely be the focus of the presentation. So some of the topics that we will be covering, right, will include advanced techniques in humanoid character modeling and animation, right? So this means, like, we'll be sort of discussing control strategies of animating virtual humans, right? Moving beyond controlling single characters to controlling groups of characters, how characters interact with each other, right? And how they sort of move and maneuver in complex dynamic virtual worlds, right? Beyond movement, we will also look at more intangible things like personality and behavior in virtual humans, right? So this is a topic of interest in our research group. Virtual humans, right, or specialized subdomain includes embodied conversational agents, right? And this is an extremely exciting topic where you all can imagine conversing with virtual humans, right, and sort of have multimodal interactions with them, right? Where not only can you rely on gestures and movements on the virtual avatar's part, but you can also rely on conversational interactions, right? So these are topics that hopefully we will present in this class. Changing gears a little bit, right? So we have a lot of ongoing projects, and then we'll be tapping into speakers, right, that are not just from computer science, right, but are also conducting research in cognitive science, right, as it relates to human wayfinding. So some of the questions that that these researchers ask, right, is that how do people find their way in complex environments, right? And you all might be asking, oh, why is this of interest in this particular class, right? So these researchers, they often rely on the use of virtual reality, right, as a medium to conduct experiments, right? So you all can imagine that we can use virtual reality and virtual worlds as an efficient means of understanding sort of the innards of human movement and human behavior, right? So these are some of the topics that they work on, and the deliverables, or sort of the results of the experiments that these cognitive scientists perform, can directly translate, right, to the development of AI models, right? So that's kind of this deep interlinking and this relationship between the kind of research that is sort of more traditional in cognition and research that is more traditional to computation. Okay, so let me just pause and take a sip of water. If there are any questions, please shoot. Okay, so I don't see any questions, so let's keep going. So yeah, somebody already asked this, right? So a topic that we hope to cover is also the use of advanced machine learning techniques for multimodal data, right? So what is multimodal data, right? It includes not only images and videos, but also text, right? And perhaps even other forms of data, for example, data present in online social networks, right? So that's fundamentally a multimodal problem. So we look at the how advanced machine learning techniques and for example, techniques like graph representation learning, right, can be used to study and understand multimodal data sets. Something that is of particular interest to our group is how we can model human behavior at multiple scales of modality, right? And the application domain being social networks, right? So that is a topic that might be presented in one of the later lectures. Some other specialized topics, and I'll just run through this. So I won't talk about each of them in length, right? This is just mostly meant for you all to sort of get a sense, right, of what you all will see. Right, so again, the use of deep learning for group activity recognition, the use of graph representation learning, right, and we'll sort of expose these topics in a variety of domains, including human building interaction, human pose estimation, activity recognition, so on and so forth. Sort of a special focus in our group, right, is, as I mentioned earlier in this lecture, is this notion of intelligent human aware building design, right? So with that in mind, right, we will sort of talk about how recent trends in AI can be used to analyze buildings and environments, right, with respect to how people move in those environments, right? So a specific research question, for example, is how we can use machine learning to predict the flow of crowds, right, to predict the flow of people in these environments, right? And more generally, how we can develop these computational models, right, of crowd behavior. So I see there's some chats. I think people are throwing some ideas out there. Aditya is asking, would you consider project which probably already exists, but are enhanced with some of our own features? Yes, Aditya. So as I mentioned, that's certainly completely feasible, right? And within the scope of this class, and more generally, that will likely be the case, right? So y'all will likely find a paper that y'all really like, right? And y'all will work on some incremental enhancements, right, to that topic or to that particular project, right? So that would certainly be fine. And as I mentioned, a research project that is primarily advanced development, right, is fine with me as well, right? So that hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Jodh is perhaps suggesting a research topic on hateful meme classification. So yeah, the answer, absolutely, that would be a very interesting topic worthy of exploring. Aditya is asking a follow-up question. So Google, like for example, Google Lens, which reads and augments the text. Yeah, that sounds very exciting, right? That would be a pretty cool project. Okay. All right. So I think, yeah, so computational modeling of heterogeneous crowd behavior, developing intelligent interfaces for human-aware building design, the use of virtual reality, right, to study collective human behavior, right? And the list goes on and on, right? So these are just a sampling of some of the topics that you all will likely see in the class. As I mentioned, the final topics will be contingent upon speaker selection and availability, and I hope to have that finalized and released soon. Okay. Yeah, so again, sorry, I think your Hanan, right, is asking, why are these defined as visual computing? They look more like human modeling to me. What is the difference between them, right? So, so that is a very good question, right? So, as I mentioned, so visual computing is a broad umbrella term, right, that encompasses computer graphics, computer vision, VR, AR, and interactive techniques, right? So that's sort of the broad umbrella term that encompasses visual computing. Human modeling is a niche, right? Is a specific subdomain that is that can be directly applied, right, to any of these areas. So a pillar in our research lab is human modeling, right? And therefore, y'all will certainly see a number of these topics, right, that pertains to human modeling and behavior, right? But y'all will not be limited to that, right? There will certainly be other topic areas that are not immediately or specifically focused on human behavior, but are more generally and widely applicable, right, to the domain of visual computing, right? But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So the bias that you see in these topics, right, towards human behavior is purely a function of the ongoing research that is being conducted in our lab and the labs of the speakers that you all will see. So the follow-up question is, I mean, why human modeling is called visual computing? That's a very good question. Yes, you're okay. That's a good question. So there are certainly aspects to human modeling that are not visual, right? So, okay. So the short answer to your question is that the topics that you all will see here, right, as it relates to human modeling, will be fundamentally visual in nature, right? So visual, what do I mean by that? So, yeah, so we will primarily be focused on domains as it relates to images and other forms of visual data, right? So, for example, natural language will not be a focus in this class, right? If a topic is multimodal, so if it combines vision, if it combines images and text, right, then that is up for grabs. Then that is something that is appropriate for this class. But aspects of human behavior, which are for example, speech, right, text, audio, right, that does not fall in the realm of this class. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so Aditya is asking, how much of external libraries can we use? For example, for activity recognition, can we use PostNet, right? Or other, yeah. So yeah, the short answer is absolutely. In fact, you all are encouraged, right, to identify, so the open source libraries, right, that solve specific problems, right? I don't expect you all to be working on low-level problems, right, like object detection, for example, right, or pose estimation, right? These are well understood and well solved problems, and you all should certainly rely on open source libraries, right, to make your lives easier. And hopefully you all can work on top of those libraries, right, and produce something that is already not solved or already not present. Okay, any more questions about the lecture topics? Okay, let's keep going. So yeah, so this is essentially a mirror image. Oops. Okay. So the only difference between that slide, right, and this slide, right, is that it is very likely, right, that you all can certainly select one of these topics, right, as your final project. So for example, if any of this, right, if any of these topics is already or piques your interest, right, then what I encourage you all to do is I encourage you all to mention that on Discord, right, so that you all can find other folks who also might be interested in that topic, and let me know. So what I can do is, even before these topics are being discussed in the lectures, I can point you in the right direction, right? So you can already begin reading and looking at what exists in these topic areas, and hopefully that gives you all a leg up in fleshing out your project proposal. Okay, so that's just a general note. So more formally, right, students are encouraged, but certainly not required to choose a project as it relates to these lectures. Students are more than welcome to select a topic which is related to their ongoing research. Okay, so a general comment here, right, is this breadth versus depth discussion, right? So what y'all can expect, right, is that the lectures will give you breadth, right? So the lectures will expose you all to a broad selection of research topics, right? Some of them may be of interest to you, others may not, right? But the idea is that you all will be exposed to a wide selection or a wide array of these topics, and you all can choose to do a deeper dive in topics that you all find particularly interesting, right? So the depth component will be primarily in the selection and execution of your project, right? So students are expected to sort of independently, right, select one or more of these topics and dig deeper, right, by reading additional papers, right, which are recommended by the speakers, and pursuing a research topic on that topic, a research project on that topic. Okay, so class grading, I alluded to this also. So it'll basically be composed of, right, class participation, one or more class presentations, right, which will be essentially on your project, right? So one of the intermediate milestones, right, will be a presentation that you all will prepare, right, in class. The project updates, which we already talked about. In general, we will follow an equal grading policy, right, between group members, unless explicitly specified by the group, right? So if you all reach out to me and if you all mention that you all would like to be graded, right, separately, then that is something that I will consider, but I would hope that that issue does not arise, right? Okay, questions or comments? So this is a graduate class, right? But we do have some undergraduate students in the class, right? So for that reason, graduate and undergraduate students will be graded on separate curves. Graduate students are encouraged, right, to reach out and to identify how they can pursue research projects as part of their course. So as I mentioned a few times now, right, PhD students can certainly continue and choose a project topic that is directly relevant to their PhD thesis. Master students who are research inclined can certainly use this class as an opportunity to do so. And similarly, right, this is not limited to graduate students alone. Undergraduate students who are interested in research, I encourage you all to reach out to me early. Okay, so please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide any advice or any recommendations in that regard. Communication. Discord will be the communication platform of choice, and I find that it works very well. Okay, so please, I encourage everybody to to head on over to Discord, and let's chat. Let's chat over there, right? So let's keep an active forum on Discord, where not only are you all communicating with one another, providing feedbacks on your respective projects, right, but using that as the sort of an efficient forum, right, to get real-time feedback from me as well as your research mentors, right? So the speakers that will be giving the lectures will also be invited to join Discord, right? And hopefully they do so, right? And they can also provide feedback on topics that may be of interest to them. Okay, so yeah, I think I kind of went through this, right? So questions pertaining to the course must be asked on Discord. Personal emails of this nature will not be answered by me, right? Because there's only me here. Students are more than welcome to answer questions which are posted by other students. In fact, they're encouraged to do so. And that is something that I will be monitoring, right? And sort of it will contribute towards your class participation grade. Okay, so only questions that are of a personal nature, right? Please feel free to then DM me or email me directly. Okay, so assignments, right? As I mentioned, assignments will directly translate to the various milestones that we discussed and the regular project updates, right? And then the final project deliverables, which will essentially sort of serve as the capstone, right, for this class. That will be your final assignment, right? And that will be due at the very end of class. There will be no written examination in this class, right? So I think just to clarify. So that brings me to this important question, right? Is this class right for you? So hopefully all of the information that I have presented so far has given you all, right, the necessary information, right, for you all to make this important decision. So I'll just go over this one more time. Lectures, right, will cover advanced state-of-the-art research papers. While students are not expected to be knowledgeable, some homework, right, some background, either having taken a course or making a point to read the papers, right, would be highly encouraged so that you all can gain the most from the lectures, right? So the lectures will provide breadth, right, in AIVC, and students are expected to independently pursue depth, right, in one or more of the topics which are discussed. The final project will be held to the standards of a CS research publication, right, at a premier conference, right? So that's kind of the sort of the ceiling of expectation. But as was asked earlier, what I'll do is I will provide some more concrete rubrics, right, of what the expectations are. And as I mentioned, at the time of project proposal approval, you all will essentially get a very good understanding from me of what is expected from your specific project, right? So there will be no surprises at the end, right? So as long as you all demonstrate dedication, right, and a strong attempt in executing your project, that will translate into a good grade. Okay, there's a chat here. Where can we find the list of research papers we'll be reading for this course? Could you please give some papers for us to get a taste of what to expect? Yes, Ezil, thank you for that important question. So as I said, we are currently in the process of finalizing the speakers, right, which will result in the finalization of the lecture topics, which will result in finalizing the papers, right? So what I can do is, yes, I will release on Sakai, right, a representative sampling of some of these papers, right, so that you all can get a very good sense, right, of what is in store for you. Okay, so yeah, we'll go ahead and upload them on Canvas this week. Okay, any other questions? So yeah, I mean, I kind of went over this, right? So yeah, so in general, right? So if you all have any questions, or if you all are still unsure about this class, about whether you all will succeed in class or whether you all will enjoy this class, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you all my general my advice. Excuse me. Okay. So, oops, sorry. So that's my penultimate slide, right? So the assignments for this week. So please join the Discord server, right? And please begin to participate actively, right? So let's actually go ahead and take a look at the Discord server. So let me stop sharing. Just give me a second. Okay, so hopefully y'all can now see the Discord server. Yeah, can I get a thumbs up or a quick yay from the chat? Okay, wonderful, thank you. All right, so this is essentially, yes, we've set this Discord server up, right? And I see I see a number of you have already joined, so that's good, right? And I thank you everyone for also changing your nicknames, right? So yeah, please, if you all haven't already done so, please go ahead and join Discord. The Discord link has been posted on Canvas, right? So so please go ahead and use that link to join the server. If you all have any technical difficulties, please reach out to me. Let's see, there's a chat here. Okay, just a yes. Okay, so let's quickly walk through it, right? Yeah, so I think many of you all, or maybe everybody except me, has already done this, right? Oh, except Zejun and Catherine. Right. So yeah, please go ahead and change your Discord nickname, right, for this server to your net ID, right? Because that is the easiest way for me to know who I am speaking with, right? So yeah, please go ahead and do that. If y'all want, in brackets, y'all can put in your first names or what y'all would like to be addressed by, right? But definitely have your net ID as part of your server nickname. So some of the rules, right? Yeah, change your nicknames. Active participation on the server is highly encouraged, right? And will be a key ingredient of your class participation grade. Please, y'all are encouraged, right, to share your opinions and comments on the various announcements and posts that I make. Right, so it is highly valuable, right, for me to get your feedback, right, on what you all think is good, what you all think is not so good, right? Feel free to give me your opinion. As I mentioned, it is highly encouraged for students to respond and answer each other's questions. Please take a moment to use the right channel when posting something, right? So as this class proceeds, with this server will likely grow, right? And we'll end up having a multitude of channels. So please go ahead and use the right channel, right? And last but not least, please be cordial and respectful to everyone, right, when interacting on Discord, right? So that is extremely important. And I'm happy to ban people, right, from the server, right, or take even more serious action, right, if I sense that there is some inappropriate activity. Okay, so what y'all will see, right? Y'all will see announcements that will be posted by me on this channel, right, on the announcements channel. I will provide the links, right, to the videos for class recordings and also the information about the upcoming classes, right, on this channel, right? And this is where I will also provide links to the papers, right, to the representative papers, or links to the web pages of the speakers, right, where y'all can find the papers and so on and so forth, right? So this is where y'all can expect all of that information. Okay, we've set this up, and I see a few of you have already gone ahead and done that, right? So please use this channel, right, to go ahead and introduce yourself, as this is the perfect way for y'all to, begin the important task of forming your groups, right? So the suggested template that I have provided here, right, is introduce yourself. What's your, are you guys undergrads, masters, PhD students? Any experience that y'all may have, right? So which courses y'all might have taken, which projects you may have previously worked on, any interests that y'all may have already coming into this course, right? And it's certainly okay for y'all to have an open mind. So what topics are you most interested in? And if some of you might already have a specific topic, right, please feel free to write that here, right? So I see that many of you have already done that. So yeah, kudos for that. Okay, I think that's pretty much it, right, in terms of this current setup of the server. Okay, so let me switch back to the slides. Give me a second. Okay, so hopefully y'all can see the slides. So yeah, so please go ahead and join Discord if y'all have not already done so. Yeah, y'all can expect, right, the server to be quite busy, right? So we will be sending out various announcements over the course of the week, right? So I will try to be redundant on Canvas, right? So I will try to also send out the pertinent announcements on Canvas, but over time, I do expect to phase that out, right? So I hope that everybody who is in the class is active on Discord. So an important thing is that make sure that you'll set your Discord server notifications, right? So that you all get push notifications from this particular server, right? So that's kind of critical, right? So that every time something, there is an announcement by me or a message by somebody else, right? Y'all can see it immediately. Okay, so I recommend you all do that. So start forming your groups today. Okay, so start, as I said, introduce yourselves, right? Start interacting with one another, right? And start forming groups, at least tentative groups, right? You all will have an opportunity to change things up in the next couple of weeks, but at least start doing some legwork, right? So Discord is the perfect way. And start thinking about your project topic, right? I understand it is a chicken and egg problem, right? But hopefully the various guidelines I've presented today, right, give you all ammunition to, to at least begin thinking about what it is that you all want to work on, right? So if you have a topic already, right, reach out to me so I can give you all more links and resources, and you all can start fleshing out your project proposal today, right? So don't wait for me to release the assignment. Exercise some initiative, and you all will be rewarded for it. So I think that brings me to the end of today, right? So what I'll do is I will now stick around on Zoom, right, for a few minutes. Let me first stop recording. So I'm going to stop recording.